I'd like to welcome everyone tonight to the SDR and SDR Leader Awards. My name's Fergus. I'm a new SDR here at Sales Confidence.
And my name's Kat. I'm also a new SDR at Sales Confidence. This is about our third day. And we would now like to welcome to the stage James Ski.
Good job.
Smashed it.
Thank you. It's literally week 0 of their onboarding. They didn't think they were going to get access to the phones until next week, and some of you have already had a call from them. So that's how we like to warm things up at Sales Confidence. Thank you very much for making an effort and coming this evening. I appreciate it's a Wednesday night. There's many other activities in London that you could be doing. Many we won't talk about, but you chose to be at this event tonight. So this is a special one because it's our final SDR and SDR Leader event of the year. Also, we will be announcing the top 50 and the top 50 SDRs and the top 50 SDR leaders in the UK. So the kind of process and the flow and the agenda of tonight will be as follows. First, we will just do a brief intro. Then I'm going to invite up our wonderful partner and co-host, Elaine Tyler, who is the CEO and founder of Venetrix. She and I will do a bit more of an update. Then we've got Liv that's going to be also from Venetrix, that's going to be sharing the state of the SDR industry at the moment. Then we will introduce our first speaker. Each speaker gets about 7 minutes to share practical insights, tips and tricks. And then at the end of that, there will be a Q&A so you can ask questions. Once we've done the Q&A, then we will announce the top 50 SDR leaders, then the top 50 SDRs, then you can all have a drink. How does that sound? Great stuff. Can I just get a hand raise? Can you put your hand up if you've been to a Sales Confidence event before? Amazing. And obviously, those that haven't been before, welcome. We're very happy for you to be here. So can I have a big round of applause for Elaine Tyler, our co-host? Hello, Elaine.
Hello. Good evening, good evening.
Elaine, why don't you share with us just briefly what's been your highlight this year in regards to what we've been doing with the SDR community in the UK?
Yeah, so I think we've had a huge positive response from the SDR community at Sales Confidence specifically. I definitely think that these events have actually been some of the highlights of my year. I think that it's been particularly useful for SDRs to come and attend these events to really understand the tips and tactics that they need to stand out in this market. We all know 2023 has been super, super tough, but I think the people who put themselves in this room, listen to the speakers on this stage, have walked out with practical advice that they can go and put into practice the next day in their roles.
Absolutely. And in terms of the market this year, what have you noticed in terms of the trend? Has it improved? Has it got worse? Like, where are we at now going into 2024?
Yeah, so I think it's been a real interesting time for SDRs in general. And I think that people have really had to be very creative in their ideas around prospecting. You and I were obviously at SaaStock, weren't we, in Dublin? And there was this huge kind of murmur, underground conversation that was going on about the content-led SDR. And I think that we've seen more and more of that, haven't we, where people really looking to take advantage of those channels on LinkedIn, not just relying on outbound prospecting, messaging, calls, etc., that people have had loads of, and people really thinking about how to put their brand at the forefront of representing an organization in order to book more demos. So I think that's been a really interesting topic this year. Amazing.
And a final question, why do you think it's important that we celebrate the SDR function in particular, SDRs, SDR leaders with the top 50?
Indeed. So I think obviously SDRs providing pipeline for organizations right now, you guys know that's the lifeblood, isn't it? So organizations can try and practically gain customers through marketing, etc., but there's never a substitute for an intelligent person having a well-placed conversation with a target prospect on the phone. And I think that everybody stands behind that fact no matter what the market looks like. But I think the most important reason why we need to celebrate SDRs today and for the future is that they are the next generation of talent for an organization. And it is so difficult to find your future sales leaders, and it's so difficult to find your future AEs. So for SDRs who join businesses, really work hard, earn their stripes, show what they're worth. I'm excited for those candidates in the future.
100%. And I'd also point out, for those of you that stepped up into leadership as an SDR leader, you are inspiring the next generation of salespeople. Like literally, this room in 10, 15 years are going to be driving the growth of SaaS organizations around the world. That is mega exciting.
And I can personally vouch for that because this is my 15th year in recruitment. So the good news is that some of the SDRs that I did place in those initial few years are now genuine CROs, founders of companies, and they call me up and say, Elaine, can you find somebody like me 15 years ago? So there we go.
Amazing. Awesome.
So one of the questions we are getting asked a lot at the moment is, what is the state of the SDR market? So I thought there was no better person to answer this question for you than Liv Adams, Senior Consultant at Venatrix. If you want to come up, Liv.
Hi everyone, my name is Liv and I'm a senior consultant here at Venatrix. So if you don't know who we are London's #1 SaaS talent partner, placing people into the world's fastest growing SaaS companies. I thought, whilst I've got a room full of clearly very intelligent people, what better way for me to give you a bit of an update as to what's going on in the market, considering I'm surrounded by talented individuals. Here at Venatrix, last week, we broke our 2023 record for the most amount of live assignments. Companies are hiring right now, so you can be out the blocks and trained, ready to contribute to the business in January. There's no hiding it, as Elaine has just mentioned, the tech industry has been tough in 2023, but we are seeing so many exciting businesses looking to hire key talent to help them achieve their goals in 2024. Recruiting for both entry-level and experienced individuals, companies are wanting to secure their next talent right now. So what does that mean for you guys sat in this room today? Basically, it means if you're sat here thinking about your next move, then now is the time to do it. Beat the rush of the classic New Year, New Me in January 2024. Applications also peak between Christmas and New Year, okay? So beat the competition, get on it this side of Christmas. Businesses want you in place so you're actually making a difference in January. If you're thinking that you would love to have a bit of a chat, then the team here at Venatrix are going to be here to talk to you tonight. Maybe it's you, or maybe you know somebody that could make an unreal SDR and be great on the phones, get creative with the outreach, and I'm referring to the content-led SDR that Elaine mentioned earlier. And if you refer someone to us, then we will successfully, and if we successfully place them, you will get £125 in referral vouchers. Think, guys, we're on the run up to Christmas, we're out for drinks quite a lot, so that's £125. Refer me 2 people, you'll get 250 quid to spend on your Christmas presents. If anyone is sat here, though, and I understand might want to have a confidential chat, then drop me a message on LinkedIn later this evening or tomorrow morning, and I would be more than happy to have a conversation with you. And later on after the talks, I'll be stood right here, so come and find me and let's chat.
Brill.
Thank you. Okay, quick one. So we kicked off just over a year ago the Sales Confidence membership. You can see a lot of people wearing these blue lanyards with member around them. And I just want to give you this information because once the awards start, you're all going to want to get pissed and you'll forget about it. So this is the opportunity to share now in 5 minutes or less. Just a quick raise of hands. Who got into sales because they're driven to make money? Put your hand up. All right. Those who didn't put your hand up, customer success events down the road. I'm joking. Obviously, there's other motivations and there's lots of things we love about sales. But money is a bit, can be a good motivator. Put your hand up. For those that are already owning over 100K, that's great and congratulations. But those of you, put your hand up if you would like to be earning 100K in the next 2 to 5 years. Okay, great. So we, in the summer, launched the 100K Club, which basically is a pathway to earning and achieving, next slide, 100K in your career. Because for me personally, when I set out in sales, there was no one around, no advice, no coaches, nothing like Sales Confidence or Venatrix to support people through that career path. So we basically now have designed a career path and an opportunity to get there. So if you're motivated, listen up. Next slide. So next slide. So what is what is it basically? The membership is a personal subscription, learning and development to support you and your career goals. Now, most of you will have a learning and development budget via your company that you can leverage to invest in the membership subscription. So you just need to get it from your boss, or you can invest in yourself. Next slide. We basically support you in 5 key areas. The first is connecting you with mentors, people that can give you advice that are maybe a few years ahead of you. Maybe they're already an AE, maybe they're already earning 100K, maybe they're earning 150K. The next thing, we connect you with professional coaches. So we work with an organization called My Sales Coach. Nia's going to be speaking later. And we literally introduce you to a one-to-one professional coach, so you get professional coaching. Now, we're all aware, especially if we've been in sport, but in any career endeavor, if you are trying to be a top performer, you need to learn and have the support of professional coaches. We also put you in peer groups with you, connect you with other like-minded SDRs that can support you. And then we have weekly content where we bring in experts like we have tonight, the speakers, to kind of share updates and advice. Next slide. So in essence, these peer groups are circles, and you'll see the concept of circles. I'm a big believer that you are the sum of the people you surround yourself with, and I genuinely mean this. The fact that you've shown up tonight just says that you want more. You want to be part of something that's going to help you get to the next stage of your career, and I want to support you all to get there. Next slide. So we have the top leaders in the UK supporting us. Next slide. And in essence, you get access to an online platform and everything I've already mentioned. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so this is it. And I frame this, I got some advice from Elaine on this, right? Literally, if you are an SDR right now, at the beginning stage of your career, we have an option. There's multiple options for different levels and different experience levels. But if you're just starting out or in your early years, this is only £50 a month. Next slide. I'm getting good at this. So we offer a few benefits if you get signed up tonight. So we are going to have a day on Saturday the 9th where we are literally going to show you the pathway to become a 100K earner. You'll get one-to-one coaching from me. We've got lots of advice, and we've got a social on the 7th where you can come meet some of the other members. Next slide. One more thing. I really honestly want to be handing out tons of these in the next few years. I would love it that we run events where you literally get up and say, look, I hit my goal and I've achieved the status of my career that I've been working towards. Now, of course, the money's more interesting, but it's nice to have that and share with your family and friends. Next slide. Now, what could you do as an alternative? Because this is what winds me up. You all, right, are earning, most of you here, 99% of you are in roles in a SaaS company. If you're not, come speak to me or Venatrix. We will help you get a role. If you are, that means you are likely to have a salary, and they even give you commission if you do well. Amazing, right? But, of course, you can spend your money elsewhere. What have you got? Night out in Fabric, right? Some fans here. Like, if you're not interested, go and spend your night out in Fabric. Now, I'm not saying you can't do both, but some of you will have a choice. Maybe you should just stick to Fabric. And some of you that join the membership, you can connect in 5 years and see who's further ahead. What's the next one? Five Guys, right? You could go and spend 50 quid with your friends in Five Guys, have a great evening. Or you could spend 50 quid on having one less Five Guys and joining the membership. Next slide, this is the final one. Or you can go on a date night at Putt Shack. Who's been to Putt Shack, by the way? Okay, you need to go there. It's quite good. It's good for dates. It's a bit more than 50 quid, but like, the point, the message I'm making here is, like, honestly, I've made this is super attractive. You don't even need your company to support you. Get on board, speak to our team, come and see us at the end of the night. We're also going to invite up some members so you can hear from them, learn from them. But ultimately, if nothing else, I hope you have a great evening tonight, and let's look forward to our first speaker. Thanks for listening.
Okay, so it's my great pleasure to introduce Timothy Miller, who is the Director of Sales Development at Zoom Info. Timothy is going to be sharing with us his talk on the incremental steps to sales success. Originally working in marketing and from Philadelphia, he joined Zoom Info as an SDR and has progressed through the ranks to where he is today. So take it away, Timothy.
Thank you, Lane. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Elaine, James. Thanks for the opportunity to come up here and speak with everybody. My name's Tim, Director of EMEA Sales Development at Zoom Info. I joined Zoom Info 4.5 years ago as an inbound SDR. Worked my way through inbound to outbound, got into a management role just under a year after joining Zoom Info. As you can probably tell, I'm not from here. I started my career in our US-based office. So after university, I moved from Philadelphia to Boston, and then I had the opportunity to take over the EMEA team in the middle of 2022, and I moved to London last December. So I've been here for just about a year now. It's been a really exciting time at Zoom Info, and I'm really excited to share some of the insights that I've learned as an SDR, as a manager, and as a director over the last 4.5 years. So what I'm going to talk to you guys about today is how to take incremental steps to be a better SDR, to have more success in your day-to-day. I want everyone to think of a box, right? And inside this box is your KPIs that you have every single day. So it's your phone calls, it's your emails, it's your LinkedIn connections, it's everything that your management team or your company has put together, the foundation that should get you to your goal by the end of each month. And a lot of times, as SDRs and as managers, we look at these KPIs and we look at them as just checklist items. And they are checklist items, right? We have to do them every day. This is what's going to allow us to be successful. And as SDRs and management, we focus a lot on the talk tracks. We focus on the emails and all the things that help generate the conversation. But a lot of times, you need to break down the data of how to get to the actual conversation. You can have the best content in the world, you can have the best talk tracks, you can have the best emails, but if no one's opening the emails, if no one's picking up the phone, you can't use them. You can't get the objections. You can't book the meetings. So I'm going to talk to you guys specifically about phone calls today and how we can make or be more effective in the phone calls that we're making, and specifically the time. So when I talked about that box, right, that box is the KPIs you need to check off every day, but you really need to push yourself to think outside of it, and not just from the content perspective, not just from the messaging perspective, but let's use time as an element. So there's really better or more effective times to make those phone calls within your day-to-day that you might not be thinking about at this point. So let's look at an hour, for example, right? All hours have 60 minutes, but the best time to make a phone call in any hour is between the 25-minute mark and the 30-minute mark, and the 55-minute mark and the 60-minute mark. You're probably sitting there saying, well, why is that? Think about the meetings that you have internally, right? They're 30 minutes, they're an hour. Some companies have even went as far as adjusting their entire internal meeting scheduling system to 25 and 50-minute meetings. So if you're focused on those 2 5-minute increments in every single hour, you're naturally going to get more conversations in your day-to-day, just simply because you're catching people as they're leaving meetings and before they enter their next meeting. So that's the first takeaway, right? Focus on those 2 5-minute increments of every single hour, and you will start to get more conversations in your day-to-day. I got a question for you guys. This is along the lines of the second piece that I'm going to talk about here. How many of you take lunch between 12 and 1:30 p.m.? Raise your hand. So this is one of the best times to get people on the phone. You need to be thinking about your decision makers' calendars, right? They probably have some type of block within that hour. And this isn't me saying don't take lunch, but think about the activity that you're putting in within that 12 to 1:30 hour, or that time frame. You're more likely to get conversations because somebody in the C-level or a VP or a director is probably going to block some point of that hour and a half time frame. So you need to be maximizing the calls that you're making during that hour to generate more conversations in your day-to-day. And the same thing goes when you're targeting really high titles, right? Think about the end of the day. Go look at your CEO's calendar, your CTO, your CRO, your CSO, anybody in the C-level, any VP plus individual. Look at the calendars internally. They're jammed packed, likely from 8 a.m. to 5:30. 5:30, their day starts to wind down. I'm sure a lot of your leaders within your companies are even working after that. But when I was an SDR, if I'm targeting the C-level, I'm making those calls between 5:30 and 6 because I'm likely going to have a higher connection rate as they wind down their day, and they're actually going to have time to have a conversation with me as opposed to me catching them at 9 a.m. in the morning when their day's just starting and things are pretty hectic. And you can think about this with your emails as well, LinkedIn messages. Our whole job as SDRs is to stick out from the crowd. So if you're writing really good tailored emails, don't send that email at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or like 10 o'clock in the morning. That's when so many things are going on with this individual's day internally. There's fires they're putting out, they're in meetings, they're bouncing between things. Send that email at 8 a.m. or schedule the email for 8 a.m. Schedule the email for 6 o'clock. So it's the last thing that they look at or it's the first thing they look at when they start their day. So these are just little ways, like think about the time element when you're doing your KPIs in your day-to-day, and you will start to be more effective and you will see you're going to increase the number of conversations that you're having. Another piece, like with phone calls, I think that goes missed is voicemails. So I'm a firm believer voicemail is an extremely effective way to generate conversations, and there's a ton out there that says voicemail is dead. Voicemail is only good to point somebody to an email or to point somebody to a LinkedIn message. And I agree, that is an effective way to use voicemail. But there are also ways to generate conversations from voicemails. So something at ZoomInfo that we do, we don't do a long introduction. We don't say anything about our product. It's just a simple value proposition that's going to prompt them to call you back. So something we'll say is, we'll go, hey, James, this is Tim. I currently have 500 companies who are looking for IT services within your total addressable market. If you could just give me a quick call back at this number, I'd love to have a conversation and get these over to you. Now this person's calling you back, and that's the best conversation you're going to have all day because they've called you. They're interested in something. You've gotten their attention in some way, and they're calling you back. They have the time to actually have that conversation so you can build the value of your product, your service, and actually book that appointment in. So the last thing that I'll end on here is for all the managers, SDR leaders in the room. I'm a firm believer, 50% of your day, you're a coach. The other 50% of your day, you're a data analysis. If you're not providing this data to your team, you're hurting them because you're not making them as effective as they possibly can be. So if your team's highest connection rate is between, say, 11 and 12 p.m. every day, don't schedule your team meetings between 11 and 12 p.m. Don't schedule team one-on-ones, or don't schedule your one-on-ones between 11 and 12 p.m. Let them be effective when they are the most effective. You have to be looking at this data constantly and sharing it with your team. Get them excited to make the calls from 11 to 12. Get them excited to make the calls from 12 to 1. And every time I look back at the data consistently suggests, at least at ZoomInfo, that between 12 and 1 o'clock, we'll make the least calls, but we book the most meetings. We have the highest connection rates. Same thing after 5 o'clock. We make the least calls, we have the highest connection rates, and we book the most meetings. So you have to constantly be evaluating this data and then even look at it from an individual standpoint, right? Sally might be really good at her job, or she's really good at her job, but she might be really effective in the morning, and Johnny might be really effective in the afternoon. Well, look at that data. See what hours are they booking the most meetings? At what times in their day are they booking their most meetings? And if Sally's really effective in the morning, then have the one-on-ones and the coaching sessions in the afternoon. And if Johnny's really effective in the afternoon, schedule the one-on-ones and the team and the coaching sessions for the morning. Allow them to be effective when they're most effective, and you will start to drive better results for your team. This is something I'm extremely passionate about. I'm constantly evaluating data, looking at the trends within the team, but then even going as granular as the individual, and spend 30 minutes sharing this with your team. It's just as effective as doing a role play, because you could role play all day, but if they're not getting people on the phone, they can't use what they're learning in the role play. So don't forget about the data aspect when you're coaching SDRs. It's not just about the messaging. It's not just about the talk tracks. A lot of it is about timing and getting people's attention, and that's the game we play. I hope everyone enjoyed this. I hope everyone took something away from this. This is definitely something you can go out and implement tomorrow in your day-to-day. Go ask your manager to pull the data. It doesn't have to be from an hourly perspective either. It can be a weekly perspective, a day perspective, right? Like some teams are going to be more effective at the end of the month. Some teams are going to be really effective at the beginning of the month. Look at those week trends. Look at the day trends. Then go down to the hour. Get super granular and allow your team to be effective when they're most effective. Thank you, guys.
Well done, mate. Great opening. Great, very thoughtful, smart tips. Okay, so our next speaker is Cheyenne Taylor, who is the BDR manager at Klaviyo. She's going to be talking about sales gamification, finding fun in the everyday. What's gamification? What does successful gamification look like? And how do you use gamification as a tool? She's responsible for the mid-market outbound team, and she started her career in the world of tech recruitment, then transferred those skills over to SaaS in mid-2020. She quickly moved from a BDR to a leadership role, and she joined Klaviyo to build and scale the mid-market function from 4 to 10 heads. Her favorite thing is the management of a group of reps she gets to work with every day, and she's all about having fun. I'm really excited about this talk. Big round of applause, please.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much, James. As James mentioned, my name is Sian, and I lead the mid-market outbound team at Klaviyo, which is a marketing technology platform. And I have a little bit of a different topic for you. I have a topic that is very close to my heart, which is how do we find the fun in every day? In business development, often the best reps are the ones that do a lot of the same things day in, day out. Every day we have to find those prospects, we have to do our research, we have to send our emails. And sometimes we need a little bit of extra motivation to actually get that done day in, day out. So, my guy Fergus, are you ready? On the prezzo, you good? All right, first slide, please. So, as James mentioned, my biggest thing that I love doing with my team is having fun. So if you walk away from this presentation with one idea of how you can inject some fun into your day-to-day, I've done my job. If I haven't, find me after and I'll try again. But hopefully we don't have to get to that point. Okay, so if you're sat there thinking, what on earth is gamification, Sian? It's using fun or positive reinforcement for me to drive one of three things. The first is a positive outcome, whether that is pipeline, channel effectiveness. The next one is supporting a goal. Maybe that is overcoming a blocker for you. And the final one is changing a process. So maybe that is how the team paces throughout the month. Maybe that's how you research an account. What sales gamification isn't is rewarding the bare minimum. So nothing about basic KPIs, nothing about basic expectations. This is about how do we incentivize really positive behaviors. It has a meaningful impact or an outcome. So sometimes when you see spiffs running, there's just that gap between what it's here to do and actually what it delivers. And finally, it doesn't incentivize or motivate. A great speech by Ellie last year was on motivations. You have to really understand the people that you are working with on gamification because people are motivated by different things. So spend too much time driving a spiff that's an afternoon off and really someone's motivated by money, you're not going to get the outcome or as much of the outcome as you're looking for. That's all well and good, but how do we even start with defining our approach to gamification? I always follow a very clear process when I'm planning activities with the team or ways to really drive that impact. I always start with the outcome. What do we actually want to achieve from the process that we're putting in play? And how do we know when we get there? What's the numbers we're driving to? What's the metrics that we're wanting to hit? Then the big question, why are we even doing it? Why is this in place? Often, that leads to the actions we need to take. Because at the end of the day, we can't drive call conversions if we're not even making any dials, if there's nervousness around that. So we need to understand why we're doing it to start to define our actions. Then the best part is What are we working towards? What's the light at the end of the tunnel? What do we get at the end of doing all of this? Is it a fancy coffee? Is it an afternoon off? Is it a financial reward? Is it a team trip? Whatever that is, having that preset as something we're working towards. And then how are we going to track it? Do we need to create any resources? Do we need buy-in from the business? Do we need budget approval? What actually admin do we need to do before we can even get this off the ground? To put that into a real example of what I have done with the team at Klaviyo, next slide please. Every year, I run Sports Day for the team. And Sports Day was the brainchild for needing to drive top of funnel activity and bring the team together. This came from a historic dip in summer pipeline and a general lack of motivation as you get an absolute sea of out of offices, no one's answering the phone, everyone's pushing their deals out because they've gone to Mallorca. And my action for solving for this was to create a reason for teams to really push above basic metrics, to increase that base activity and have some fun while we do it. Enter Sports Day. I divided the sales org into 3 teams with a mixed group of inbound, outbound, AE, so we're really putting the organization together. You throw in 3 team captains because what is better than a sales rep, but a sales rep with a little bit of power and the desire to beat their colleagues, and give them some metrics to follow, plus a bit of nostalgia. You cannot have Sports Day without an egg and spoon race at the end of the day. The reward for us in this instance was a 4 p.m. finish. So we left early and we went to Hyde Park, we played rounders, we had drinks together. That was actually a requested motivation. It wasn't financial, it was, can we just go and have a bit of fun? So that was always really refreshing to see. The execution behind it was creating a scoring system, buying Oreos for the Oreo race, and generally orchestrating 3 captains to make sure their team was on it across the day. The day itself saw the death of 3 eggs, RIP. One very funny 3-legged race around one of the office floors at Klaviyo HQ. A ridiculous amount of cheating at rounders, like a crazy amount of cheating. And a team that drove a heck of a lot of top of funnel activity across the whole channel. So you've got some pictures up here of our winning team, the scoring system. If you want to know more about this, there is a formula for it, so I can just give it to you if you want it. If you're in need of some inspiration when it comes to gamification, you could start to think of really what you're looking to drive. Is that an outcome, like meetings over the phone, and we use a calling gamification? Maybe it's thinking about challenging your manager with a you bet, I bet. I've done this with one of my team. If he did something, he got 50p. If he didn't do something, I got 50p. So you can use anything when it comes to it to really think about what you're looking to drive and what that deliverable is. Some of the other gamification that I've done at Klaviyo are things like mastery stickers to award channel outcomes. I spent a lot of time in Canva designing those stickers, probably a bit too much. Yes, they are cool. Yes, I can show you. No, you can't have one. I'm really sorry. But these kinds of things are very large scale. It can be something as simple as cold call roulette. It can be something as simple as something like James Clear's Atomic Habits technique of giving yourself an M&M every time you make a cold call. It doesn't have to be something drastic. Maybe your waistline wouldn't like that after a while. But really to wrap up, next slide please, Fergus. You can make anything fun if you really think about it. And when you do a job like ours, sometimes you need that extra push in motivation. Sometimes you need to be reminded that actually we can have fun with what we do. It isn't all doom and gloom when you're on your 40th dial of the day. And as you can probably tell, I could talk about this for way longer than 7 minutes. So if you want to talk about it anymore, come and grab me after. I'm more than happy to. Thank you very much.
Fabulous. Okay, on to our next speaker. So next we're going to be hearing from Nia Woodhouse, who has recently been promoted to team leader at My Sales Coach, which is lucky because her talk is on going for promotion. So Nia worked with her founders at a previous company, Refractor, that was then bought by a Lego. And on top of that, she is also an NHS physiotherapist. So take it away. Nia.
Thank you. Thank you. Like Elaine said, I am Nia Woodhouse, SDR team lead at a company called My Sales Coach. And I joined as the first non-founding employee back in January when we went to market. And I spend literally all of my time speaking with sales leaders. I've probably cold called most of you or your sales leaders in this room. And if I haven't and you're not gaining access to coaching yet, then that can be arranged. I also spent a ton of time speaking with SDRs, so I'd love to know from the audience, who here wants to be promoted in the next 6 months? Fab. 12 months? 18 months? Okay, fab. So looks like everybody's going for a promotion in the next 6 months. So that's what we would expect, really ambitious salespeople. And that really resonates with the conversations that I've been having with SDRs, and that is that we can't bloody wait to be promoted. Could you pop the next slide up, please, Fergus? Thanks. So My Sales Coach actually did a survey of over 1,000 SDRs, and this is what they said they wanted to do with their next step. Most of us want to be AEs, and the rest want to be team leaders. So I thought I would share my 5 tips on going for a promotion. Next slide. So the first one is, don't run before you can walk. So if you can go on to that one. When I started as the first SDR and non-founding employee, I was laser focused on being successful at sales development. And I know a lot of you here will be holding your success on what comes next, when you're stepping up, when are you going to be an AE. But I'm here to be a little bit of a Debbie Downer and say you really need to smash it in this role first. And that's because we see time and time again, SDRs who've stepped up too soon end up ultimately being unsuccessful. I've seen it with my own eyes at previous companies that SDRs have come in, they've had their heads turned by the glitz and glams of the AE team and ultimately lost focus on being great at sales development. And that's actually backed up by a study that was released by the Bridge Group, who said SDRs with under 11 months experience had a 55% failure rate as an AE, but that dropped significantly to 6% when they had over 16 months experience. So if you ask me, it's definitely worth the extra 7 months. And I know as SDRs, we can be guilty of focusing on short-term vision rather than long-term vision. And that being, we've booked a couple of meetings, we make a cup of tea, but we need to think about that long-term vision. So what happens 11 months down the line when none of those meetings have converted? And that is what senior leadership care about. So smash it as an SDR first. The second one is make yourself indispensable. So let me tell you, your boss is busy. They wear so many different hats. They're forecasting, they're hiring, they're onboarding, they're in meetings. Some of them are in part of the sales process themselves. So one of the easiest ways to get new responsibilities to just say, is there anything that I can do that's going to take this off your plate? Shock. It's not going to be the glamorous stuff, it's going to be the rubbish stuff. It's going to be tidying up the CRM or trawling through data lists, but it is business critical. So you need to think of it like breadcrumbs to bigger and better things. And that's exactly what I did. I started off by asking my head of sales what I could do to make his life easier, and he gave me the shit jobs. But then he started trusting me with the bigger and better stuff. I started taking on interviews and looking after the onboarding process. Ultimately, I became a trusted advisor to the point where my head of sales saw me as more valuable as a team lead rather than an SDR. The next point is, act like the role that you want, not the role that you have. And I don't want this to be contradictory because I think you need to smash it in this role. But when I was talking about this talk with my colleagues, they were like, oh yeah, Nee, we've seen you as an SDR team lead months before you were given the green light. And that's because I was acting like the role that I wanted. So I got creative. I thought about how I was going to help the team to be as successful as possible. I ran prospecting days, I coached calls, I set tasks to upskill them, and I got creative with my own outreach. So I set up a TikTok account, Near in Sales if you're on TikTok, and that's generated leads that have closed. So get creative and use this time to show that you can do the next role. Take on some of your opportunities that are over quota and run those discovery calls without having the pressure of the target over your head. Number 4 is seek out a coach or a mentor. So I'm super lucky that I work for a company that drinks its own champagne. I have access to an expert independent sales coach. So if you can flip to the next slide. I had tons of options, and I went with a lady called Hilary Wild, who's an amazing woman. Ultimately, her history is my future, so I can learn from an unbiased opinion. Ultimately, your boss has the autonomy to make or break your promotion. And you've got a couple of options here. You can either wing it, go it alone, I'm sure that that's worked, or you can seek out an independent coach or a mentor who can help you see a promotion from a different perspective. They can share the good, the bad, and the ugly, and how you're going to prepare for that next step. I know a lot of people go to their parents as a mentor, but mine are child therapists and don't know what sales development is, so that was not going to work. Finally, you're going to need to go to your boss. So I can guarantee that your manager doesn't get into work day to day and think, how am I going to promote this person, even if you're a top performer? And that's not because they don't care about your development. It's because they've got a million things that they need to be doing at that time. So when you do go to them, make sure that you have context for the sort of promotion that you want. Is it a salary promotion? Is it a different job promotion? And how have you shown that you're ready for that, and how is that going to be beneficial for the company? And managers in the audience, when you're confronted with these conversations, it's really helpful for us if you're super honest and upfront about timelines and job availabilities. So I know a lot of you here are here because your company cares about your development and they've brought you to gain access to top performers. But if you're not, I'm here to say there's definitely companies out there who will. So when you do go for a promotion, good luck, consider these things. Don't run before you can walk. Make yourself indispensable. Act like the job that you want, not the job that you have. Seek out an external coach or mentor before going to your manager. And if you're missing any of these, I'll leave my QR code on my next slide. You can book in some time to speak. Thank you.
Awesome, well done. Love that energy. And that's what it's about. I think Nia demonstrates, bring your personality, bring your energy. So I've had the pleasure this year of working closely with a number of our membership teams that have come on board. And this next individual really stood out to me. So next up is Patrick Turner. He's a senior global business development executive at Benefex. He's talking about opening the doors on every call, getting out the hamster wheel, and the 5 factors that make a great cold call. Recently been promoted in his current role. He's based in Bristol and has worked in sales for over 5 years. Started in recruitment, fell into tech sales in Australia before he moved back in the UK into a boiler room environment until he found the team at Benefex, where he was able to be molded into a top performer and has a consultative approach and is the #1 SDR at his company. He's recently been promoted and he's hoping to continue his promotional run in the next 12 months. Let's have a big round of applause for our next speaker, Patrick.
Cheers, Matt. Thanks very much, James. So when I got asked to speak by James, I was thinking, who am I going to be able to connect with in the audience? What are you going to really want to hear from someone that's sort of been in the trenches? And that's where I sort of thought that I would sort of explore the cold call. Now, as a lot of you may know, it feels like you may be on a hamster wheel, you're smashing those dials, you're banging out those emails, and You're waiting for that big break to sort of get yourself out of that hamster wheel and then on to the next stage. So hopefully by the end of this talk, you might actually be able to understand maybe how to do that. So the reason why I'm probably stood here today is that after 6 months at Benefex, I was able to achieve 250% over my first quarter and won the Employee of the Quarter award. Moving on from there, I went on to do 120% in my next quarter, and then was offered the opportunity to move into this senior BDE role, which has a fast track 12-month opportunity to go to an AE, which is fantastic. Now, I think there's 3 main reasons why I think that has sort of attributed to my success. So number 1 is that passion and motivation. So you have to be passionate about what you're selling, what you're doing, and potentially even sort of the solution. But obviously underpinning that is the motivations. It's, why am I getting up in the morning? Is it a financial motivation? Is it a progression motivation? Or is it a solution motivation? Whatever your motivations are, you need to make sure that they're at the forefront of your mind when you're going into that cold call. Now, the second that I think is super important is relentlessness. You need to make sure that you have no stone unturned when you're sort of going into these calls and talking to these prospects, because you don't want to miss out. Now, relentlessness means that, like, when it comes to about sort of 4:30 on a Friday, you're absolutely banging the phones and you haven't got through to anybody, you're still going to have that fire in your belly to really sort of deliver a really great pitch when it comes to sort of speaking to that prospect. And the third and final, and no means least, is controlling your own success. So as an SDR, you know you can't control everything. There's no possible way that you can, but what you can control is your output. Doubling your output, making sure that you're smashing your KPIs, and making sure at the end of the day you can sort of look yourself in that mirror and think, yeah, actually I've done the best I can today. So there's a big myth that cold calling is dead, and hopefully by the end of this speech you're sort of, hopefully I might have changed some of the minds in this room, but we're in a data-rich environment with resources like Zoom Info, thank you Tim. You're actually able to be connected to a direct dial or mobile within seconds. Gone are the days of sort of having to go through the switchboard. So hopefully by the end of this I might change some minds if there are in the room. Now, the 5 things that I think is to be successful for cold calling. So number 1 is rapport. Now, that's not asking what their dog's name is or whether they've got a holiday home down in Cornwall. It's about actually sort of listening, actively listening, and understanding that what you're saying is going to resonate with that prospect. And that's really going to take them on the journey as well. So you want to be building trust throughout the call, but you also want to be utilizing those previous conversations. You want to be taking notes. You want to really understand what makes that prospect tick. So number 2 is ask for forgiveness, not permission. Now, there's a couple of people in this industry that think you got to ask for the 30 seconds or whatever, but I actually don't think that. I think whatever you say in that first 30 seconds grants you the next 30 seconds and the next 30 seconds and so on. And you don't want to put any unnecessary hurdles in your way. The third is the discovery call. Now, this is asking the right questions. What you're trying to do in the discovery phase is you're trying to extract that pain from the prospect. And sometimes it's quite difficult to do. But you want to be asking those deeper diving questions so that if one door does close for whatever reason, you want to be able to navigate that way so you can actually open another door, extract that pain, obviously rip that pain open, and then get the meeting. Now, the fourth is reaction versus response. Now, what I mean by that is reaction might be, oh, I'm not interested, or I haven't got much time. And you start flapping, you start getting a bit desperate. I'm sure a few people have been through that. the response is cool, it's calculated, it's understanding where can I take this conversation to open another door, or if one closes, how can I sort of resonate what I'm saying to the prospect to make them think, actually, I don't just want to see this, I actually absolutely need this solution in whatever you're saying. And then the fifth and final point is the psychology of you. Now, I can't have the credit for this. Adam Wren's at the back there, our head of global business development, takes all the credit for this, that I was introduced to 6 months back at Benefex. And what it essentially is it's removing your ego. It's saying that the prospect doesn't care about the SDR, about the company. All they care about is solving that pain that's keeping me up at night. So it's super, super important that you're sort of taking away and putting the focus points on the prospect and removing that ego. So an example of this would be, like, I think you would find value in seeing some of the work that we're doing with similar organizations in your industry, and you may find some food for thought on what things could look like at your company. I think they might have turned the mic down because I'm probably shouting, so I do apologize if anybody's ears are burst. So in conclusion, what I'm basically trying to say is being an SDR is about uncovering opportunity. And often we don't actually recognize the opportunities that are in front of us and afforded to us. The environment you work in, your comp plans, your base salary, your mentors, your peers, all these things attribute to your success. And look, if you can actually look at yourself in the mirror at the end of the day and think, actually, I've done a fucking good job here. Sorry, I don't know whether we can swear. James, do apologise if we're on the recording as well. Sorry, Mum. And obviously, you just want to work to your full potential. So a job is not just a job in our world. It's where you're going to spend the highest of your highs and the lowest of your lows. But I'll just finish by saying, don't take that for granted. You owe it to yourself to be the best version of yourself you can be. Now, that's my talk finished, and thank you so much for listening, and best of luck with the awards, everybody.
Thank you so much, Patrick. Okay, so on to our final speaker of the evening. It's my pleasure to introduce Emily Parker, who's Director of Inside Sales at Insider. So Emily has had a career starting as an SDR, worked at a couple of different companies before moving into management and scaling teams across Europe. And she's going to be talking to us about harnessing zero optionality. Here we go.
Thank you. Okay, so harnessing zero optionality might sound like, what the heck is that going to be about? I've never heard anything like that before. So, in a nutshell, zero optionality is about having a relentless focus and determination towards a goal. Now, I feel a little bit like Patrick might have teed me up well here because he's been talking about relentlessness for the last 7 minutes, pretty much. And that's all about what I'm going to talk about today. So, my CEO has been traveling around with the world talking about zero optionality, about driving yourself to a point where you reach almost like a paranoia or an obsession around the goal that you're working towards. And for her, it's really focused around Insider and how she can drive the business to be as successful as it possibly can be. But for me, I think it's more around professional and personal, and I want to find a way to harness zero optionality in everything that I do. So I want to be relentless about my relationship. I want to be obsessed with maintaining a work-life balance. And obviously, I want to be determined towards my career goals too, don't we all? I used to have this CRO who would wander through the office and he would say, like, hey, morning everyone, don't forget the excuses department is closed today. And that was his way of trying to just get us into that accountability mindset and get us motivated. I'm not going to say that one simple sentence like that at the beginning of your day is going to get you into a state of paranoia around your goals. That would be a bit too easy. So I'm going to dig into a little bit of academia to help us get there. I studied my dissertation on intrinsic motivation, and I know I've not got very long, so I'm not going to recite my whole dissertation right now. We'd be here all night long. So I'm just going to do a quick whistle-stop tour on some of the theories in it. So intrinsic motivation, if you don't know what it is motivation that comes from within yourself. It's about being just motivated by the actual activity that you're doing, motivated by the sheer joy of what you're doing, which sounds like Sean's got for gamification. So there's a theory within intrinsic motivation called self-determination theory, and that's basically the idea that intrinsic motivation is fueled by three main things: accountability, competence, and relatedness. So it's about having control over your actions, that's your accountability, feeling competent, feeling capable and skilled when you're doing it, that's your competence, and then also being connected to others while you're doing it. So if you're in the room now, you're connecting with other people, that's brilliant, and that's your relatedness. And if you can use that self-determination theory to drive your intrinsic motivation, actually it will help you become successful, but it will also have a bit of a change of your actual hormones within your body, and I'm going to dig into that right now. So there've been studies done on what actually happens when you drive your own motivation, when you choose to do something for yourself rather than when you get kind of coerced into doing something, so they say. Now, I'm going to level with you, most of the studies are on rats, and I'm going to emphasize rats because when I first told James this, he thought I said reps, and then he thought that I was forcing my reps to do exercise, which I'm not doing. So 2 groups of rats. One group gets to choose whenever they want to do exercise on a hamster wheel. Thank you, Patrick. And then the other group of rats absolutely forced to join in whenever the first group are choosing to do their own exercise. So both groups end up doing an equal amount of exercise, but the rats that had no choice whether to do their exercise, they actually saw a big increase in cortisol levels, that's your stress hormone, whereas the rats who got to choose when they did their exercise, absolutely no increase in cortisol, and actually they had an increase in dopamine levels. So that's your happy hormone, that's like those nice bubbly feelings that you get. Maybe dopamine is what I'm feeling right now, or it could be the wine I drank earlier, I'm not sure yet. But effectively, you can change your chemical makeup of your system just by like self-motivating and pushing yourself to do something. So when we think about that concept in our personal lives, it makes a lot of sense. Intrinsic motivation is really clear, really painfully obvious. Would you be in a relationship that you fundamentally hated just because you might one day get promoted to marriage or like graduate to parenthood? Absolutely not. You probably wouldn't even want the promotion anyway, but we're in those relationships fundamentally to be satisfied within them. And that's what we need to try and find within our professional lives as well. How can you be satisfied, happy with the job that you're in before you then go for that promotion following all of Nia's steps? So sometimes it can be really hard to think about that shift because we're talking here about getting into a state of like obsession around your goal. But how can you be obsessed with something if you don't necessarily know what that something is? And there'll be some people in the room who don't know what their next step is, what their career goals are. And actually, I've been thinking a lot recently about what having your career goals in mind can do for you and your success. I did 25 interviews with SDRs last week because I'm hiring. So I'm hiring. So if anyone wants a job, I'm here. And on those interviews, loads of people asked me a very similar question. Of the people I've managed before who've become successful, what did they have in common? And I wanted to make sure that I was maybe applying a bit of this zero optionality myself and not just kind of make it up. And so I went back, looked through all the SDRs that I've led before, looked at where they are now, looked at the ones who've been promoted again. One of them's a VP of sales in 4 years. Wild. Good for him. But basically, one thing that they had in common is on the day that they interviewed me, they could tell me exactly what they wanted to achieve, and they gave me a really personal and authentic reason why they wanted to achieve it. And that is so valuable and so important, and literally they were just relentless about it. It didn't matter whether the training was slightly down or we didn't have budget to go and do this external thing. They made sure it happened for themselves. And they have been the most successful now. And they didn't know it at the time, and I didn't know it at the time because I'd never heard of the concept, but all of them were harnessing zero optionality already, and they've gone on to be really successful. Now, if you are one of the people who sat here and you don't know what you want to do, don't panic, but you can still make the most of this concept of zero optionality. But your action to take away is to use it to find out what your goal is and what you want to achieve. So have the conversations that you need to have with yourself and also with other people to work out what that is and be relentlessly focused on determining what it is. Because when you do, you'll unlock a whole new level of dedication that you didn't really know was going to be possible for you. And then if you are one of the people who does know what they want to do, great. If you're not ready to jump straight in, just think to yourself, what needs to change in my professional and personal life to make me throw myself into it? And yeah, that is all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Emily. Emily, stay on the stage because we're going to be doing the Q&A. So we'd like to invite our speakers back up to the stage. So, audience, this is your opportunity to grill our speakers. Any questions that come to mind, hot topics, things that you would like to know from our experts this evening, hands up and I'll come to you for questions. Ooh. Do you want to get, what's your name and which company are you from, and ask your question?
Okay. My name's Kelvin, I'm from Store Lab. My question was actually for Emily on the topic of zero optionality. It's something I've tried to adopt in my own life, but I find that when you're kind of driven that way and you're like tunnel vision towards your goals, you can sometimes maybe offend people unintentionally because they might not have that same drive. So like, how do you go about overcoming that so you're not stepping on toes in that process?
Great question. Here we go.
Yes, very good question. So I think when you're adopting that zero optionality mindset, it's about, it's for you. It's not necessarily something that you need to like shove down people's throats, I guess. So what I would say the big focus is like, it's not just on that one goal. Like maybe you need to also adopt it in your stakeholder management, in your relationship building within your team. Because just have a think to yourself, because I don't know your full context, but who is it who's feeling a little bit offended? And is it maybe something that is because they want to be more like you, they don't know how to access it, or just they're feeling potentially just intimidated by that level of focus? And I would say probably they're not understanding the way that you're driven, and they're not necessarily relationship-wise close enough to you to understand why it drives you that way and be rooting for you as well. So I'd say work on those relationships, and then they'll probably just be like, go on, go for it, mate.
Any other questions from the audience? Oh, there's so many. All at the back. You're going to make me run. Go for it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hi, guys. I'm Todor. I'm looking for an SDR position, so if anyone wants to speak with me, go ahead after the awards. A question, guys, for all of you. Is there any way that you can evaluate your failures during interview, and like what would you advise me to, let's say, do like 3 actionable takeaways that I can apply so I can land my first SDR position? Thank you.
Okay, top tips for SDR interviews. Go for it, Nia.
When you're in an interview, you're going to try and put your best foot forward, but sometimes the nerves get to you and you can do a bit of a shit job and you feel like that is not representative as you as a person. I don't know about the rest of the leaders on this stage, but I know from my personal experience that after that first interview, it's not game over, it's what you do next. So if you hold your hands up and you're like, that wasn't me, those nerves took over, and here's why I think I would be great for this role, that's better than 95% of the other candidates who are just taking no as the first answer. It's never a solid no. It's how can you improve? How can you basically step up and show us the real you? Anyone else?
I think for me as well, when I'm interviewing potential new hires, is actually I look for how you take feedback. So if you think towards the end of the interview, maybe it's not quite gone as well as you wanted it to, I enjoy getting asked the question because it's surprising how many people don't do it. to say, actually, is there anything on your mind that maybe you're a bit concerned about? Are there any last minute kind of question marks you have over what I've told you so far? Do you have any feedback for me moving forwards? Because I would rather be asked that. And I've had really quality interviews where I've given feedback and they've said, perhaps I didn't answer that question quite right. And they've answered it again, given me a way better answer. And I've seen that they've heard what I've said, listened, and gone out of their way to show me a different side of them. And equally, interviews are high pressure situations. So if there's enough good there, there's nothing that's going to stop me from putting you in front of another leader saying, hey, this was the feedback I gave. Because if you've adopted that feedback, gone in, been different, taken that on board and really show that you're developing yourself, that's a really positive thing to show during an interview process. So never be afraid to at the end be like, hey, is there anything else that I need to show you here to really answer any of those last minute questions or ask for feedback to put yourself in either the best position for that company or the next interview process you go through.
Perfect. Any more tips? No, I was expecting you to have one there. Okay, right. More questions from the back.
So my question is for Sean, and it's around the gamification. So with my SDRs, I'm a BDM, and they react super well to small incentives day on day, week on week. And we do see a drive in productivity with that. However, it almost feels impossible to offer them incentive every day. I feel like there's a really fair commission plan in place. They can earn a really good amount of money if they hit target, exceed target. And offering them an incentive every day, every week, feels like it's almost giving them too much and they'll become lazy. I don't know if that makes sense. So I just wanted to understand how you find the balance between incentivizing them every day, rewarding them every week, and them kind of becoming complacent, essentially, and not wanting to work unless they're going to get that small incentive.
Absolutely, the catch-22 of gamification. So I think the important thing to take away from this is if you gamify every day, it is no longer fun. It just becomes the norm. So the challenge you may have is actually sitting down with your team and being like, hey guys, some of the things we've kind of incentivized on in the past, that's actually just an expectation that you show up that way. We were doing it for X reason. We were looking to drive Y behavior. We're there now. Now we've got to start thinking a little bit bigger. I'd love to understand from you guys what big goal we should drive towards as a team and start to try and get them to pivot towards something a little bit bigger, maybe away from the incentivization day to day, and redraw that line in the sand. Because if you do spend too much time rewarding standard expectations, you will find resistance to doing standard expectations without additional incentive. So be honest with your team, be like, hey guys, like this is where we are, and put it on them to think of some bigger goals, some bigger things that they want to drive towards, and use that budget for those smaller incentives towards something that's a little bit bigger. Like historically, we've done big pipe drives and gone to Alton Towers and things like that. So you can move towards a bigger incentive, but you be honest with the team. Understand why they feel like they need additional things to get the job done and start getting them to think bigger. But yeah, don't use gamification every day, every week, because you will fall into a trap of lack of motivation generally otherwise.
Perfect, thank you. And one final question, you can go for it.
Thank you, hi. Hi, my question is for Tim at ZoomInfo. Hi, we're a client of yours. One of the things I took away from your talk was how you plot your day. Something we're trying to implement at Benefix is on a Monday morning, kind of putting in those power hours. So I'd like to understand from your point of view what your thoughts are on getting ahead of the week and getting straight on the phones and getting those power hours in.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's a great idea. I think at ZoomInfo, Monday morning, first thing, we're getting into our day. We have our Monday morning meeting, and then we're right into it. So it's not like a slow delay into the week. If you delay getting into the groove of things, right? Like those first couple of calls, you're gonna mess up. You're gonna say the wrong thing. You're gonna get hung up on. Get those out of the way as fast as possible every single day. And you can even do things like I used to do this with when I was an SDR manager and actually managing a team of 8 to 10 individuals. we'd start every day with warm-ups. And what we'd do is we just sit there and like role play Monday morning. Yeah, it's tough to get on a call Monday morning and get a role play in, but then once you're on with your day, you kind of you shake the cobwebs off and you're off into it. And that's something that we actually just implemented with all of our new hires. The first 6 weeks, once you go through your onboarding program, or first 4 weeks, every single morning you start your day with myself, the manager, and the senior manager of our inbound team, and you role play. So you're with one of us, sitting down, and yeah, like get right into the week. Definitely don't delay, because you got to get those first couple calls, first couple conversations out of the way, and then get right into it for the rest of the week.
Amazing. Thank you so much to our amazing speakers. One final round of applause for them. I know there's some Queen.
Excellent job. All right, we're going to kick off the awards in a minute, so have a little discussion amongst yourselves, but don't leave your seats. We are kicking off the awards. Okay, we're here because we want to get into the drink. So can we get your attention, just so we can understand the process here? Okay, so are we like in the 5th year of doing this? 5th year. So Elaine and I have been doing this for 5 years. So we literally have 5 years of top 50 SDRs, and then I think it was 3 years ago we launched the top 50 SDR leaders. Now we run a nominations process, so it starts in the summer, runs to the end of October, and I'll be honest, like there will be many of you in the room that won't show up on this list today. Doesn't necessarily reflect on where you're at in your career, it's just your team didn't promote the fact that you could get nominated, right? So there is a combination of popularity, i.e. we do look at the volumes of votes. We get over 1,000 nominations for SDRs, so there's a lot to go through. But we also have a model that we work to in terms of, we look at company growth data, we then make comparisons. So for us, this is just a reflection of the top 50 SDRs that we are most proud to shout about, and we recommend that you should follow. The way we're going to do this is, if you see we're going to do it in 10, so it will be super quick. Because I know what it's like, when you're at school, you don't get a vote and you're sitting there. But we're going to make this one quick. So when we go through the 10, we'll call out the names. If you see your name, walk up to the stage. Elaine's going to give you a golden ticket. And then stay back here on the stage. And then when we get to the final 10, each of the top 10 will get an actual physical award they can take home. Now, if after all of that, there's a few awards left and it's your mate of yours, hopefully it's a mate, maybe you can pick it up for them. If not, don't steal one. And then we're going to go into the top 50 SDR leaders. Now, just as a technique, because I've done this a few times, when it comes to a clap, like have a building clap, otherwise it gets a bit tiring, right? So it's kind of like an opera clap, like good job. But then when we get to the top 10, like let's go crazy. If you see someone you know, shout out, celebrate. If you see yourself, as I said, come up on the stage, collect your award, and you'll get a photo. Alex is going to do the photography at the front.
Who's starting?
Are we going?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm good to go.
All right, we're good to go. Are you saying the first 10 or what?
I'll say the first 10.
Okay. Ready? This is this year's top 50 SDRs as voted by the Sales Confidence and Venatrix community. Let's go.
So we've got Max from Braze, Mark from Redgate, Natasha Planday, Kieran Get Accept, Kaziba from Ezra, Stevie from Cognizant, Robert Datagard, Troy from ITRS, Katie from Braze, and Ran from Psychpore. Woo! Congratulations. Join us on the stage.
Well done. Stay on the stage. Yeah, get on the stage. All right, next slide. Greg from Clavio, Georgina from Navan, Kovo Jump Cloud, Nick Content Square, Yasmin Gong, Katrina Reward Gateway, Thomas Edzo, Harry from Zoom Info, Samuel from Zoom Info, and Tyreek from Arlo. They're not here?
Woo!
Next one, go.
Emma from Mention Me, Scott from Avon, Isabella from Clavio, Kim from VDIOs, Georgia from Salesloft, Nadine from Verif, Constantina from G2, Megan from Hakodo, Jeff from Content Squared, and Caitlin from Air Marketing. Congratulations! Very well done. Oh, congratulations!
All right, next slide. Okay, at 20, Jude from Sourcewell, Claudia from Scoro, Josh from Avon, Michelle from Segment, Diana from Litmus, Ben from Apprentify, Rory from Bird Eye, Lisa from Culture Amp, Lewis from Demand Base, and also Louis from Braze. All right, so this is this year's top 10. Here we go. Elaine.
It's Madeline from Cognizant, Matt from Bird Eye, James from Clary, Calvin from Storlab. Jeffrey from Popeye.
All right, Nia from My Sales Coach, Rudy the Legend from Fresh Relevance, Emily from Reach Desk, Connor from 5, and this year's top SDR, massive round of applause for Patrick. Get the photos. All right, let's get a few photos. Alex, stand up for this, for everyone at the same time. All right, guys, just come in, get in, Elaine. Let's just get a few photos. Well done, everyone. Share with your parents. Big round of applause, well done. This year's top 50 SDRs, well done, mate. Well done. Congratulations, well done. Awesome. Okay. So there's more to come before we celebrate. Well done, everyone. You can take a box home if you like. All right, so next list, please. Okay, this is this year's top 50 SDR leaders. It's absolutely buzzing. Okay, from the top 50, Fergus, let's go. Cleo, Charlotte, Louisa, Jordan, Alexandre, Matthew, Joshua, Anna from Omniplex, Tom from Reach Desk, and Paul from Hoos.
Congratulations! Yeah, you won!
Well done, mate. Congrats.
Okay, next slide,
well
please. Next.
Well done.
Oh, we got more.
You're in.
Congratulations. Hello. Done.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. We've got Josephine from Cluster, Luma from Elation, Maria from Get Accept, Rachel from Hacker Job, Ewan from Seismic, Travis from Salesloft, Louisiane from Deep L, Ellie from Workday, Ella Valance from Payfit, and Helen from Logic Monitor.
Well done.
Congratulations.
All right, top 30. Amjit from Papaya, Olivia from Gong, Georgina from Persona, Freddie from Kadara, Philip from Confluent, 25, Charlie from Vobos, Faisal from Thrive, Janie from Reward Gateway, Marina is here from Talkwalker, and Eri from Spendis. Congratulations.
Well done. Congratulations. Okay, then we've got Jess from Reward Gateway, Hannah from Brand Ambassador, Shazad, Hannah from Silo Breaker, Fraser from Unmind, Carly
Let's
from
get the
Data
clap
Moran,
going.
Caroline from Vonage, Jack from Sourcewell, Olivia from GWI, and Bruno from Zoom Info. Congratulations.
Oh, no.
Hello.
All right, okay, so this year's top 10, can we have a big round of applause for this year's top 10 SDR leaders? Let's go. Adam Renz from Benefex, Maddie from Persono, David from Cognizant, Cheyenne Conclavio, Ludwig from Scoro, Amanda from Naven, Grace from Hagadodo, Andy from Brace, Selena from Duro, and this year's #1 SDR leader, our wonderful speaker tonight, Emily. Well done. All right, let's just get a photo. Get in, everybody. Well done. Congratulations. Round of applause. Well done, everyone. Take a seat. All right. We're all buzzing. Can I just have a massive round of applause for all the speakers and for everybody this evening for coming? As I said, you put yourself in this room. on the list or not, you're here tonight because you believe that you have the potential to have a successful career in SaaS sales and to support yourself and lead. Please do, if you want to join the Sales Confidence membership, come and speak to the team. We'll be up here on stage and we can get you started tonight, or just have a conversation. We get your team on board. But that is a wrap. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Venetrix. Thank you to all our partners. Well done, everyone.